Hello guys, welcome to another podcast by Constitution Insider. Today we will be talking about part 3 of our constitution, which talks about the very important fundamental rights under which our constitution guarantees to each citizens of India. So this is a very important part, so hopefully tune in guys to listen in. So without much waiting, let's get into it. See, the fundamental rights part, that is part 3, starts with Article 12, which talks about the definitions of the fundamental rights. Article 13 talks about some of the laws which are inconsistent with or in derogation of the fundamental rights. So it talks about any laws which are actually in violation of the fundamental rights, and such laws are deemed to be null and void. Okay, so such laws cannot be enforced. So for example, let us say a right to, let's say, a title, for example, if that law is considered to be offensive, or it's not towards equality, then that law is null and void. It cannot be enforced. Okay, so then the law then becomes defunct. Okay, that is one of the meanings. Okay, so we'll come to the first law, or the first fundamental right, that is right to equality. Article 14 talks about equality before law, which you all know. Article 15 talks about prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, which is once again the stuff that we are taught from childhood. No person can be discriminated on the basis of his caste, on the basis of his religion, on his basis of his race, or even a gender. Okay, I mean, so far using his, so you might somehow get to know what my gender is, but let's just say that a person's right cannot be taken away from him, and a person cannot be discriminated based on his or hers race, color, sex, gender, all that. Okay, and Article 16 talks about equality of opportunity in the matters of public employment. A state cannot also discriminate against a person of mixed race or a person of race, color, all that. Even the government's main duty is not to discriminate. Okay, all right. Then we come to Article 17, which talks about abolition of untouchability. So it is hence under this article, untouchability is abolished and cannot be practiced, and any person practicing it is punishable, and it is considered to be an offense. Abolition of titles. This is another bit towards equality, which says that a person cannot be conferred a title. A person cannot be addressed by a title. For example, if let's say he has received a royal title, for example like king, let's just assume, then he cannot actually get that, because the constitution says that no person can have a title. You see, that's why when any prize, especially if you are conferred a knighthood, you are then called sir and your name, whereas in India, if you are conferred the Bharat Ratna, you are not given any title. The constitution prohibits it. Okay, so that is one more thing. Right to freedom, which is the second fundamental right. So Article 19 says that it talks about protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, like to have freedom to express, to have freedom to assemble peacefully, to form unions, to move freely throughout India, to reside in any part of India, and all that. Okay, so we talk about all those things in this part, this article, which is Article 19. Okay, Article 20 talks about protection in respect of conviction for offences. So even if a person is convicted of a wrongdoing, he is still protected by a constitution, because he is still considered to be a citizen of India, right? So that is what Article 20 talks about. It also talks about wrongful prosecution. No person can be prosecuted as such, So Article 20 once again is a part towards equality and also freedom. Article 21, protection of life and personal liberty. which you all know. Article 21A is extension of that, which is a right to education, which has gained prominence. Once again, these are things which I need not elaborate much on, which we already know. Article 22, which talks about protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. It talks that no person can be arrested without being informed as to the grounds of his arrest, or cannot be denied the right to consult or to be defended by a legal practitioner of his choice, which is very important. In India especially, a person who is arrested should be brought before a judicial person, who is in this case a magistrate, and he should be, if his time expires 24 hours, then he is eligible to be removed from detention. Okay, and then we have all other subclauses which extends on that. Okay, and then we have right against exploitation. Article 23 prohibits the traffic of human beings and forced labor. Article 24 prohibits employment of children in factories, etc., below the age of 14. And right to freedom of religion, which is one of the more important ones, especially in India. Article 25 talks about freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. And Article 26, which is continuation freedom to manage religious affairs. Article 27 talks about freedom as to payment of taxes for promotion of any particular religion, which means that no person can be taxed for promoting his or her own religion, right? And Article 28, freedom as to attendance at religious instruction or religious worship in certain educational institute. So no religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institute only maintained out of state funds. So if you are a government, then you have to remain so-called secular, as described in the preamble. Cultural and educational rights. Article 29 talks about protection of interests of minorities. Article 30 talks about right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. And we have some different laws which come under a clause known as saving of certain laws. So Article 31 is, or should I say was, so Article 31 was compulsory acquisition of property, represented by the Constitution 44th Amendment Act 1978. So you see that there is the right to a property under this, but it has since been repealed by the 44th Amendment. A person no longer has right to own property. I mean, a right to own property in the sense that he is not entitled, like not every citizen has to own property, that is what it says. So, which is further elaborated under various subclauses. So it also talks about the right of the state, involvement of the state. The state cannot intervene in this, and it is the whole, should I say, right of the person owning it to manage it. A state cannot come and interfere in it, even if it is for national purposes. He has to acquire the permission of the person who is holding it, and that is how Article 31 and its subclauses are defined. And right to constitutional remedies. Article 32 talks about remedies for enforcement of rights conferred by this part, which is part 3, and it just talks about how the Supreme Court has the power to help citizens gain their right. If Parliament is oppressive of the people, and if the people are not getting their rights conferred to them, then it is a right of the people to approach the court and get the court to issue the Parliament to give their rights to them. So It also talks about Article 32 has various subclauses in it, which again talks about how the Supreme Court is like the savior, should I say, of the rights. Article 33 talks about the power of Parliament to modify the rights conferred by this part in their application to the forces. So you see, some of these rights only in legal terms, and this is only in legality of it, okay? Some are held off to people serving in the military. Well, one might assume, being they have sacrificed so much to the country, they should be the one who should be more entitled to this. Well, you see, let me give you an example. If an army commander instructs his soldiers to attack the enemy and the soldier does not attack, citing right to freedom to his own choice, and he has chosen not to attack, then we will be in a serious dilemma. Then we may not have an army, we might not have a nation at all. At that such times when the nation is more important than one's own right, such rights are held back. But of course they are there, they are given to every people, all the people, so it's not like they are taken away from them. It's just that they are held off for a short while. Okay, so next we will be talking about Article 34, which talks about restriction on rights conferred by this part while martial law is in force. So it says that if martial law has been enforced, then some of these rights will be curtailed, because it is by the sake of the security of the region that these rights have been curtailed, and it is for the welfare of the people. So notwithstanding anything in the foregoing provisions of this part, Parliament may by law indemnify any person in the service of the Union or of a state or any other person in respect of any act done by him in connection with the maintenance of restoration of order in any area within the territory of India where martial law was in force, or validate any sentence passed, punishment inflicted, forfeiture ordered, or other act done under martial law in such an area. So what is the meaning of indemnify? Well, I guess you got to find out, so but from the text I think you do know what it means, right? So a person, if he is punished, if he is punished, then it's punishment because martial law was enforced. Okay, we come to Article 35 and the last article in this part. This was a pretty long part, I must say, which is legislation to give effect to provisions of this part. So Article 35 puts the responsibility on the state government to bring about legislations to make sure that these fundamental rights are enforced in the nation, and these fundamental rights are very much required for our nation to prosper and to progress. With that, we have come to the end of part 3. Stay tuned for the next part 4, where we talk about the directive principles of state policy. So until then, I live by my motto. I encourage you people to do the same, which is never stop learning, never stop exploring. And on that note, I would like to conclude. Thank you.